My stepsister has it out for me. She tried to ruin my dream wedding. Okay, sister, you want a party so bad? I'll give you a party, and this one is something you'll never forget. Siblings are supposed to be a blessing in disguise, but what to say about stepbrothers and sisters? Because mine has been no less than a curse ever since she stepped into my life. And there's no disguise and no second thoughts in it. Hi, my name's Rhea, and I'm writing this down to you while locked up in my room because I've been grounded for more than a week. Thanks to my stepsister, Andrea. So let me tell you from the beginning, which was the very first day, the most unfortunate one, when Andrea became an inevitable part of my life. It all started when I was 17 years young. My mom, Serena, met Henry, my stepdad, at her office, working under her department. His wife died in an unfortunate accident while Dad had divorced Mom, and she claimed my custody. It's not that these two things happened simultaneously, no, but they met at the right time, and when they could understand each other's pain of losing a spouse. So they became friends. His frequent visits to our place made it quite evident that they had become more than just friends. I don't have any complaints because he was polite and really nice, and Mom also asked me for approval if I would accept him as my stepdad. I was just glad for Mother, and I could trust her enough that she might not get to the wrong guy to be my stepdad. As long as it was about Henry, it was all fine. But I started having doubts about him as a father when I met his daughter. Yeah, you got it right, Andrea. Then she was 15 at the time, and Andrea, on the first meeting, had mannerisms learned from her dad. She was quite well behaved for her age, but she was hardly amiable. I believe she might be the reserved kid, but I was wrong about that because though she was quite an ideal kid from the beginning, it was just a cover. Instead, she was quite mean, a liar, a self-obsessed person, and Mom was entirely delusional about her praising Henry for his parenting skills to raise a daughter like her. And I won't blame her for believing that because she doesn't know enough. It didn't take long before Andrea became her favorite stepdaughter. Andrea was very possessive of her dad, but she enjoyed the attention and love my mom showered upon her. You must be wondering how I can claim that she's so mean. Well, I witnessed her real face when she straight away put aside her act, when I gifted her a card and some candies, and she just threw them into the trash, saying she did not need any stupid gift from me. She never bothered to put up her nice personal act in front of me. Things have been bitter between me and her since then. Mom and Henry get married, and we both moved into his place, and Henry never differentiated between me and her, but he was as blind as Mom when it came to accepting Andrea's behavior and her lies. She was not just mean, but a really good liar as well, really good. And I've gone through such an incident as well. I'll tell you later. So, as I've told you, me and Mom both began our new lives at my new stepfather's place, so he made me share a room with Andrea. Though Andrea truly disliked the idea of sharing her space with me, she did not complain to Henry right away, and honestly, neither do I. But she was more eager to throw me out because, well, she dominates the entire space, forbids me to use the restroom during certain times, or keeps the temperature of the air conditioner and fans according to her, or the volume of the music that she likes to listen to. She occupied every square inch of space. I'm talking the side of the bed she sleeps in, the curtains, the posters she prefers. Not only that, she yells and picks fights with me every time she misplaces a single clip in the mess of her room. She was the worst roommate ever, and I had to request that Henry let me have another room. I have at least my own peace of mind, even though it won't be as great as hers, but at least it'll be all mine, be it good or bad. I thought that somehow I could live my life in peace by not being around her as much as possible, but I didn't know that she was targeting my relationship with Henry as well. As I've told you, she's possessive of her dad and also seeks constant attention from those she's fond of. Henry was really good as a dad, but Andrea did not let things get any better with him. She knows exactly what irritates him and holds me accountable for it, and she has numerous ways to do that. In the beginning, I used to fall for them as well, so here's the incident that would show how she's a liar. One time on my dad's birthday, I was baking cookies. Andrea appreciated my idea and was ready to lend me a helping hand. Back then, unaware of her malady, I believed her, and she advised me to add peanut butter to make them oh so delicious. When Dad was about to taste it, she threw the cookies on the ground, blaming me for putting the peanuts in them. At the time, I did not know that Henry was allergic to them and it might get him hospitalized. She clearly tricked me by suggesting that I add that allergic ingredient and now throwing them away in front of everybody to gather attention and try making herself look like a savior. I said she was the one who suggested me, but she clearly denied it. Also, Andrea's actions prove contrary to my claims. This was not limited to this incident, though. Most of the time, she spoils something, pretends to be the savior, and blames me for letting such incidents occur in the first place. In fact, it was she who was responsible for them. When switching the stove on when I left the kitchen, she screams and pretends that I was the one who left it open, and she turns it off, making sure that everybody gets to know that I've made a mistake. And she came to the right moment and handled everything. I was so sick and tired of growing up with her. It's been almost 7 years since then. And thankfully, I finally got rid of it. Even if not completely. But at least I completed my college far, far away from home, where she could not score for it, and out of my life. Otherwise, she would not have let me be. Well, I luckily found an internship in my hometown, so I moved to my parents' house as soon as I did not get settled. The rent was already too high, so Mom suggested that it would be better to save for myself for a few months, then I could move out after, getting a full-time job. So, let me come back to present how I ended up being grounded in my own room. So, a month earlier, as I managed to ace an internship at a renowned company, I wanted to celebrate the first salary that I've ever received. Clearly, Andrea's been jealous of my achievements ever since we were kids. My friends and I planned a trip to some exotic location, but I needed permission. So, I asked my dad, since he was the most difficult person to convince in the case of sending us far away, thinking we were still teenagers or something and needed somebody to watch over us. Also, the place was pretty infamous for drugs and junkies. Somehow, Andrea got to know my plans, and to shut her mouth, I traded my favorite sneakers to let me convince Dad. If not, then prevent making it difficult for me, but darn, she was even worse. She lied about it again. My tickets were already booked, and it took me longer to find Henry in the right mood to get his permission. Time was running out, and I was still not able to discuss it with him. Mom was not at home since she had gone to Grandma's, and Andrea was still taking her final year exams. Time passed quickly, and there was only half an hour left aboard the flight. I didn't completely trust her that she would talk to Dad or try to convince him, so I texted Dad hoping that he would agree and told him I would be back soon. When I boarded the flight, I checked the text and was overjoyed to find that he agreed. I switched my phone off and enjoyed the journey and the destination, blissfully unaware of what awaits me when I return to reality. I come back home, not expecting my dad to be furious with me, and he was surprised to hear that he gave me permission. And I saw Andrea smirking behind his back. I cursed myself for trusting her. I quickly showed a big paragraph of text asking for his permission, and he returned the angry look, saying I was lying to his face. I checked back and saw there was no reply to it. The message was deleted after being sent to me. I was aware that Andrea sent the text through Dad's phone, and Dad also checked my luggage to see if I've been into illegal stuff, all thanks to Andrea exaggerating lies to Dad. Since I've reached home, the only good thing that's happened to me is that Mom is back. She tried calming Dad down about being mistaken, and he could forgive me after all. I'm a grown-up, and a little bit of freedom won't harm anyone. My mom's words worked on him, and he only grounded me for a week since I've been working from home, so I couldn't escape it. Thankfully, he didn't throw me out, and I could see Andrea not being so satisfied with it. I was looking forward to all those boring days that I would spend locked up in my own room, but I guess God had other plans because the very next day, Dad invited his friends for dinner, and Andrea was not home because she went out to hang with her friends and she had recently completed her exams, so she was given a break. Gladly, I was allowed to come out and lend a hand to Mom for preparations. Dad invited most of his friends, and his new intern, Kevin, also joined the dinner. It was really nice meeting him, and we ended up exchanging numbers. Being grounded felt like a reward to me because I was not disturbed by anyone. I was always on my phone with my privacy, no questioning, and I didn't realize that my punishment was over a long time ago, so when I stepped out of the house, I started going on dates, movies, dinners, but having a sister like Andrea, my happy times could not last any longer, because she was the one who had been keeping an eye on me for some time ever since I was grounded. I could not understand the reason for her taking an interest in my personal life, but I had to be careful beforehand. And this time I won't back down because she has to pay for it. So I started doing the same thing while she was busy interfering with mine. And it did not take much effort while stalking through her social media accounts. All her old passwords were already known, and I found that she was already dating a guy from her class. I saved the screenshots and statuses ready to use when needed, because precaution is always better than cure. As expected, the day came. After having a nice dinner date with Kevin, I came home to find my parents asking where I was. Andrea was the most eager and tried to subtly hint that Kevin and I were there. So I pulled out my reverse wild card and tossed a question back at her about her recent dating life. And now she was the center of attention. Unfortunately, she was quite lucky again because Mom and Dad brushed her aside, saying that she was too young for her age to think much about boys, so there was nothing that should be taken seriously apart from her higher education or further studies. Finally, I had to confess that I was seeing a guy who was already my dad's new intern, and even I got lucky today because Dad looks excited about my dating life and so does Mom. They were happy that I started dating Kevin, who has already impressed Dad by being a dedicated employee of the company. Dad started to like him, and his impression of my parents has worked wonders for me. He said that he has high hopes for Kevin and that he'll reach places after such a great record at his work. I informed him that Kevin was already getting recommendations to apply for a job, and he's aspiring to move out if better opportunities come to him. After talking to them, I witnessed Andrea sulking in the corner. I didn't bother to ask because I didn't want to spoil my mood. I could not wait to tell him that, and the next time he came to pick me up, my parents welcomed him warmly and asked him about his future plans. He said the same thing about his career and his personal life. He was eager to take a step forward in a relationship by expressing his wish to get married. I was in the seventh heaven and could not wait to meet his parents to fix our dates of engagement. So he scheduled the meeting for his upcoming week. Top comments from the original post. Comment number 1. I could relate to OP when you have such siblings in life. It's difficult to deal with them, especially when they're so jealous of you. I could not understand what Andrea's problem was, but OP did the right thing by not trusting her. She was the person who just craved attention and would not tolerate others the same. You should make your parents aware of her and how she tries to manipulate the situations against you. And OP should try to gather a bit better evidence next time if she repeats the same thing in the future. Comment number 2. I could not understand how OP could be so careless about leaving the situation in the hands of her sister. If she had known her whole life, she should have called her mom to tell her dad that she had already taken permission for the trip. Also, it's pretty obvious that her sister already liked Kevin too much, and that made her jealous. OP, while being busy in her own world, should have bothered about your sister's next move. And precaution should not be taken beforehand if she does something like that to make her parents aware of it. Come on! Update number 1. Hey guys, thanks for your comments and suggestions. I'll follow your advice on taking precautions beforehand and will not let the same mistakes repeat again. So, I did exactly that, but I did what I could at the moment. And also about Andrea liking Kevin, you guys were absolutely right about that. So let me tell you what exactly happened. While I was again in the happy mode of my life, I did not forget about Andrea, who was sulking silently at my moment of happiness. I could never stop doubting her. But she was looking quite busy as well. I know that she's jealous, but she has her own boyfriend as well. What makes her upset? Rather, she should be happy to get rid of me once and for all, right? Everything was actually in her favor, which was to get out of each other's lives. Then what is bothering her? I'm thinking that I'm missing something, but then we had our dinner at Kevin's place. Andrea denied coming up, saying that she had an upset stomach. I didn't have enough time to mind her behavior, and our family discussed everything about marriage arrangements. Looking forward to my wedding, I was busy preparing for the engagement. I was somewhere too occupied to remember Andrea. She was not at all enthusiastic, but constantly distracted and tended to disappear while helping out my parents with wedding prep and engagement. She was messing up with her task by either delaying them or ruining them, and it cost me my special day. Andrea is such a kind of a person that I could not even believe it if she was not doing that intentionally. I was going to the salon with Andrea, but on our way, her phone was ringing, and she was hanging up over and over. I didn't ask, but doubted a car was following us. But I stopped at the woman's salon, knowing it would take us a long time in there, so I relaxed there a bit, but when I woke up, I noticed that she was nowhere to be found. She went missing. I was searching for her and started calling, but it did not answer. I came out and saw the car and Andrea inside it. I came up and the guy introduced him as her boyfriend, Jake, but she added an X, and she yelled at me to stop interfering in her life. Now that I know, this guy was following her around constantly. In the evening, it was my engagement day and soon I was going to be engaged. I tried to enjoy the moment when my engagement commenced and I was declared his fiance, and I hoped and prayed that Andrea would not do anything to spoil the day, but it went in vain when I saw her drunk. And that too, she was flirting with Kevin, making the entire party awkward for everyone. I was quite upset, but then I spotted her ringing phone with 80 messages from Jake. Furious at her behavior, I called back her ex Jake and sent Andrea a picture of her getting friendly with Kevin just to make him mad and make her stay away from my fiance, who was getting uncomfortable but could not be rude to her. Well, that day I introduced Jake to my parents as well, and he took Andrea away from Kevin, but she gets hyper, starts calling him names, and even picked up a fight with him. She had made our family embarrassed in front of the guest, and the guest bid us goodbye because obviously things were not going very well. Mom tried to distract me by giving me the heirloom bridal comb for me to wear at the wedding, and Andrea tried to snatch it, but Dad had instructed Andrea to go back to her room. Andrea, being emotionally unstable that day, pushed Jake aside, and I told him to leave, and he would be called when needed. Reluctantly, he left. He was too clingy, but good for me, and he came in at the right time and took her away before she made my day any worse. Hey guys, finally my big day was about to arrive, and as nervous as excited as I was, somewhere I already had a feeling that things would not go well. And it happened exactly like that. My fears turned true this time. My wedding day was ruined completely, and finally my big day was about to arrive, and unlike the engagement that happened, thankfully embarrassment was not on a large scale because there were not many people present at my engagement as compared to my wedding, so I told my dad to keep an eye on Andrea because I could not risk her ruining my big day, you know. I contacted the tailor who had especially come home with his collection, and we finalized our dress and gave my measurements along with Andrea's mom and dad as well. We booked a venue and reached the hotel where I was supposed to get ready. The beautician dolled me up and soon guests started to arrive. I started to wear a dress, but the stitches and buttons were totally misplaced, and while trying to fit it, it got torn from the inside. It turned out to be seriously ridiculous. I was shattered and ended up looking like the worst dressed bride ever. And I did not want to step on the aisle while wearing this horribly fitted dress. Meanwhile, Andrea and other cousins were searching for the ring that was supposed to be in the jewelry box. Andrea reminded Mom that it was left at home. I could not believe how such a blunder could happen on such a big day. Mom tried to calm me down a bit and sent Andrea to fetch the ring. Mom was very nervous herself when the priest asked the reason for the delay. Mom told the priest that the dress was ill-fitted and as a result it got a little torn, and the ring was stolen. The priest, being orthodox, said the wedding dress getting spoiled is not a good omen and rather inauspicious for a wedding. Mom, getting superstitious of an ill omen, got a call from Andrea, telling her that she had hit the car with another and could not come soon because people were asking her to pay a fine. She was in shock and called for help. The guests began to arrive and my parents panicked along with me because everything was becoming so chaotic. I just wanted to cancel my own wedding. Looking at our current situation where Mom was panicking along with me due to previous words and Andrea was stuck in a minor accident, I called the wedding off. I said that our family was in need of a medical emergency. Kevin and my in-laws understood it. I got a call from her boyfriend who was constantly trying to get in touch with her since, well, she had blocked him. So he called me, and I told him to reach the accident spot. He was quicker than expected. He reached us within 10 minutes flat and informed us that he had already taken Andrea to the hospital. The doctor had declared her to be unstable and in shock. It had worsened her mental stability and she was also found to be a little drunk. She looked absolutely fine and was healthy to me. Mom and Henry were worried about her, and I don't know if it was actually like that or not, but she was coughing vigorously and acting all weak and fragile all of a sudden when our parents arrived. So, because she was mostly fine, doctors even discharged her, I get a call from Jake and thanked him. I let him stay for a while and I promised to fix a date with her. Meanwhile, Dad also came up, who had already been introducing to Jake at my engagement party. He was happy to meet such a guy who was genuinely concerned for Andrea. Back at home, I get a call from Kevin asking how Andrea was doing. Andrea snatched the phone from me and started acting like she was sick, and invited him to meet her. Not only that, she starts flirting with him as well. She did not look like she had just been discharged from the hospital at all. I started doubting her speedy recovery. Even though a single wound was not visible, she seemed all right. I stayed back and listened carefully, doubting her act makes her appear ill. After some time, she handed me my phone back reluctantly, and before I could ask Kevin, he said that he did not want to wait and wanted to get married because he had received a job offer and accepted it. So, he has limited time to shift over there, so just before that, he wants to get his papers completed. Also, he doubted Andrea's intentions and suggested a low-budget wedding or a court marriage, if required a decent reception. Andrea insisted he visit her once he agreed to do that this week. I don't know what'll happen next, but I'll update you soon because I doubt things will end here. Update number 2. Hey guys. Thanks for listening to my story, so let me tell you how things went because, well, what's worth thinking of? Andrea proved right, and she herself confessed everything, so this is how it happened. I get a call from my tailor, who had shown up his collection at home, and I complained to him about the stitching of the dress. He apologized and said he did exactly as he was told. I visited his office and saw that the written measurements were according to the dress he made. And I got the shocking realization that the dress that was stitched was Andrea's size and not mine, which is why it did not fit. I was furious at Andrea that I wanted her to pay for this, so I instructed the tailor to stitch back his torn dress and make it look like before. And I told Kevin that our suspicion of Andrea was right because she had ruined my dress, and I doubted that she had done something else as well. I wanted Kevin to make her confess everything, with Kevin believing me since he doubts her intentions but has no idea how to do it. I told him to just act really, really nice. She might end up confessing everything to him since she's a short-tempered person. He didn't like the idea, but half-heartedly agreed to it. When I came back home, I saw her room filled with bouquets and sorry notes, some fruits, snacks, chocolates, etc. The entire room was filled with random gifts. I read the notes with Jake's name on it and informed her that Kevin was arriving to meet with her. She immediately hops up, stashed everything behind, and rested under the bed as if it were just garbage. Andrea, who was waiting eagerly for Kevin, I told him to play along with her as I simply wanted to know what was going on in her mind and ask her what she thought about him. He was quite uncomfortable. Andrea seemed too eager, and with my encouragement he did it, and a few nice words did magic on her, and she blurted everything. I hid and listened, and she thought that she was alone and said how much she liked him ever since he first met her outside her home and helped her park the car. She was totally in love with him at that moment and was disheartened to find me instead as his girlfriend. She tried to convince him to marry her instead of me. She worked so hard and planned to postpone the wedding. Kevin curiously asked her how she did that. She confessed that the ring was with her the entire time and she hid it and lied about leaving it at home. She was drunk. So to get herself rescued, she acted unstable, went to get rid of the fine, and postponed my wedding in the name of her medical emergency. She tried her best to ruin my dress by misplacing my measurements with her. She requested that Kevin chose her instead of me. I knew Andrea was carrying out this act just to ruin my day, and I know I will make her pay for this, so she'll remember it for a long time to come. Kevin, shocked by the revelation, politely drifted away from her and excused himself. Andrea, who was delusional that Kevin might give a thought to her words, was happy in her delusion, so I just let her be. Update number 3. Final update. Hey guys, I'm excited to tell you about how I turned the tables for Andrea, and oh boy, I really enjoyed the look on her face when she found herself trapped on all sides. Even though she wanted to, she could not back off, so here's what happened. I had a really small wedding, and I made preparations with Kevin and his lawyers along with my dad. Mom took care of Andrea, who was faking her illness, and while doing this, I promised her boyfriend Jake to set a date with him. I rather fixed his meeting with my dad and his parents, and we both introduced Dad to Jake and his parents, and he was way too eager to get married to Andrea. Even Dad could not deny him after all. He seemed such an innocent, nerdy guy. After having random countless encounters and seeing him worried about Andrea, Dad was happy to have him as his son-in-law. When Andrea was all well, I told Kevin to give her a surprise gift. It was that same wedding dress which she had ruined. She was too happy to believe that Kevin might propose to her, and Kevin said that her dad is almost ready to get her married, and she was made ready along with me. And I gave her the heirloom bridal comb that Mom gifted to me. She walked her down the aisle, though it was my wedding, and I told the parents that it was a surprise, especially for Andrea, and I tried to put all the acts together to make her the center of attention first. My stepsister tried to sabotage my dream wedding, so I gave her a party of her own. And there we were preparing a special entrance where Kevin was standing in front. He shifted aside. Her expression changed in an instant when her boyfriend Jake was standing right in front of her with a bouquet and a ring, on the other hand, bending down on one knee, asking to marry her. Our whole family came to me with my parents all saying yes on her behalf and being under pressure from all sides. In the presence of everybody, she reluctantly said yes while forcing a fake smile. Her boyfriend Jake was on top of the world when he got her for life, and he thanked me and Kevin for helping him out. I whispered to Andrea that now that she had her own fiance, she would stay away from mine, and I told her that I had sent Kevin to take a confession from her on everything that she did at my wedding to ruin it. With that, she was officially married to her toxic, clingy boyfriend, Jake. And now it's my turn to get married to Kevin, and we exchanged rings. And finally, our wedding bells rang. So OP getting her sister married to the clingy boyfriend Jake at the end of the story. A lot of people in the comment section were not very happy about that. First of all, they said it was forced. Second of all, a lot of people were saying this isn't even how marriages work. You can't just go ahead and get married in the same day all of a sudden. And they were also saying, hey, I don't really think that the sister would have gone along with that, even if she was embarrassed. But hey, I want to hear from you guys. Let me know your thoughts about it. Say, for instance, you were in OP's position. Do you think this sort of petty revenge was good enough? Not good enough? Too far? Not far enough? I want to hear your opinion on this one. Maybe give a little advice on what you would have done. My name's Mr. Reddito. Thank you for joining me on today's story. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope to see you tomorrow as well, so smash that subscribe button, and remember, it's cool to be kind. See ya!